Well shit, this one snuck up on me. What's up guys, thanks for once again visiting The Forge, and today we're going to dig into what has indisputably been my favorite thing to come out of this game so far. The Grimm Troop DLC is Team Cherry's way of celebrating the holidays and getting people into the Halloween spirit. The DLC kicks off in the Howling Cliffs at this location right here. There will be a breakable wall revealing a narrow tunnel. Dream nail the bug corpse, light the fire, and head back to Dirtmouth. From there, the DLC is pretty self-explanatory. You're introduced to an entourage of some pretty unique-looking characters, the most interesting being Grimm, a haunting figure of immense power that tasks you to collect flames to kindle the Grimm Child, which is also your first charm. The concept of this DLC is pretty linear. Collect the flames of the Grimmkin and watch as your Grimm Child evolves. The waypoints on your map appear to you in threes, and you must defeat the Grimmkin novices, then the masters, and then finally the nightmares. And each trio of enemies progressively increase in difficulty, and as you complete each round, you descend further into Hallownest to recover the flames. Defeat the Grimmkin and they will relinquish their flames to you, empowering your Grimm Child. Fighting the novices are not difficult at all. As the same goes for most enemies in Hollow Knight, it really all comes down to timing your attacks correctly as they get close to you and leave themselves open. The novices are located in the Green Path, the Crossroads, and the Crystal Peak. They'll launch fireballs at you and occasionally rear back and charge at you, and even though this attack is pretty fast, it's still easy to dodge if you're paying attention. Jump and downstrike when they charge, fire off a few Shade Souls when they're further away, and the fights end pretty quickly. As you begin going after the Masters and the Nightmares, their attacks will change and become faster and more powerful. The Nightmares actually do double damage when attacking, but they also appear in areas in which the platforming becomes more of a nuisance to fight in. A Nightmare will appear in the Ancient Basin above the tramway, for instance, where you have to jump across these platforms here and avoid the spikes. Additionally, you have to be looking out for fireballs, flame pillars, and his charge. So a lot of stuff you have to pay attention to. And these fights can get pretty frenetic the further down you go. Now, I'm not going to bother with giving a complete list of all 9 Grimmkin locations, because these flames are the easiest thing in the world to find. You'll have a much harder time defeating them than you will searching for them in any case. When you fight the Grimmkin Masters and travel back to Dirtmouth, Grimm will decide to test your combat skills, and a boss battle will begin. This battle needs the Grimm Child charm to trigger the confrontation, so even if you do have the full set of 10 notches, you only have effectively 8 to work with, so be mindful of your charm build. Unbreakable Strength and Mark of Pride each fill 3 slots, and they can chomp through his health pretty quickly. And you can throw in a Quick Focus in there to help with healing in between attacks that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. Now, I've heard Fluke Nest is also an effective charm to use against him, but I haven't yet tested it, so I can't offer any 2 cents on whether or not it's recommendable in this fight. But after fighting Grimm, he will give you a free charm notch, increasing your total collection to 11, which is pretty badass. Clearing the final troop of baddies will unlock the second and final fight of the DLC, which is essentially a dream version of Grimm. Only this time, he's been given a new title, the Nightmare King. He's everything you'd expect from a dream boss. He's basically the same, but much faster and with double the damage output. Same charm build can work just as effectively, but I would consider swapping out the Quick Focus for another offensive charm, such as Quick Slash. Nailmaster's Glory I've found also works pretty well here. Even with Quick Focus in your build, you'll still have trouble trying to find breathing room in between his strikes. So it's really just best here to go all out, balls to the wall, 100% attack mode, and just finish the fight as quickly as you can. Take a couple rounds to try and really nail down his attack patterns, because chances are you will end up dying quite a bit in the beginning. Compared to other Hollow Knight bosses, this dude is pretty relentless and also fast as shit, so be patient and be prepared to bite the dust a few times. Another charm build I had some luck with was investing in the Lifeblood charms. Joni's Blessing and Unbreakable Heart work well, especially since there's basically no window of time to heal safely in between his attacks. The greatly increased HP given to you by the charms gives you a lot of survivability, and you definitely stand more of a chance. These charms take up 6 slots, meaning you ideally have 5 more to work with, so I'd also consider Long Nail and Unbreakable Strength to give you a little offense power. Sourcing the Hollow Knight wiki page, players have actually been able to use his Flame Spawner attack as a means of measuring the health of the boss. This attack is actually no longer random as opposed to the first fight. Now the Nightmare King only attacks with this move when down to 75, 50, and finally 25% of his health. It's a nice way to measure your progress towards defeating the boss if you're feeling impatient or you feel like you aren't doing that much damage. His fire bat attacks also look pretty overwhelming, but if you do a quick jump to hop over the first bat and you shade cloak to dash through the third one, you will have avoided the attack, and you'll probably be right next to the boss in order to get a couple cheeky hits. So, flashing back to when I said unbreakable strength. Now, if you haven't had time to poke around the DLC, that probably didn't make a lot of sense. But there is an NPC you can talk to by the name of Divine, housed right beside where you find Grim. You'll be prompted to give her whatever fragile charms you have equipped, and if you comply, she will eat the charm right in front of you. And you'll probably shit your pants a little like I did, because the game does a really good job making you dig for the dialogue line that makes her say, "Oh, hey, just kidding, I can actually upgrade this and turn it into something better." About 5 interactions in, she'll finally tell you to stick around and that she can reinforce fragile charms to where they can no longer break, but her services fetch a pretty hefty price, so be prepared to empty your pockets. The Grimm Troop DLC also gives you 5 additional charms: Grim Child, Dream Shield, Weaver Song, Carefree Melody, and Sprint Master. Now, we already went over Grim Child and its uses, so let's dig into what the others are used for. Dream Shield occupies 3 notches and spawns a shield around the player that blocks attacks and does damage to enemies if it collides with them. The only downside is that it rotates passively around you, meaning it might not always be in the right spot to deflect attacks. It can be found in the resting grounds by breaking this wall right here and exploring the cave. Weaver Song occupies 2 notches and summons a crowd of Weaverlings to defend you. This charm also prompts additional dialogue from the midwife found in the leftmost portion of the distant village. Sprint Master is another single notch charm that can be purchased from Sly's shop in Dirtmouth. It does exactly what you think it does. Nothing more, nothing less. You really just move faster. If you combine this with Dash Master, however, I can't imagine people doing some pretty wicked fast speedruns of the game. So even though it doesn't have a lot of room in my own personal build, I'm sure people will find a use for it. And finally, the Carefree Melody, by far the most interesting charm of the Grimm Troop lineup. This charm contains a song of protection that wards off incoming damage, but the way it works is pretty cool. Every time you take damage from something, the chance in which it blocks attacks is increased by 10%. The charm caps at 7 hits while having a 90% chance to negate all damage from any attack. I can see this being super useful in boss fights, and especially in Steel Soul mode, also in the dream versions of other bosses in the game. But in order to get this charm, you have to destroy the lantern and get the banishment ending. If you don't do this and you go and talk to Nim after the fight, he just deadass doesn't appear. And then there's the trio of fragile charms, which can be upgraded and reinforced to unbreakable charms. So there's technically 8 charms altogether that come with this DLC. Damn. So anyways, it looks like I've covered just about everything content-wise. Got all the charms, the 2 bosses, where to find the flames, got the Path of Pain. Shit. The Path of Pain. Right. So if anyone had a question about that mysterious statue in the palace grounds, you can actually re-enter the White Palace level. And if the platforming in that area didn't make you want to headbutt a table saw, then the devs decided to add a new area into the palace, titled the Path of Pain. Team Cherry, just what in the ever-living fuck? In case the White Palace didn't give you enough trouble, the new DLC gives you a fresh platforming hell to run through a few thousand times before you finally get sick of life and consider erasing the game from your hard drive. It's literally straight out of Super Meat Boy. This platforming is ridiculous, and on average I've heard of it taking at least a couple hours to play through completely. There's nothing wrong with the Hive Blood Grub Song Deep Focus combo, but the soul statues give you literally infinite amounts of soul, and you usually respawn right by one when you die. So Grub Song and Defocus aren't completely necessary, but it does save time in between respawns. Make sure your charm build is also equipped to handle fights, because there is a sequence near the end where the area gets really fighty. But if you manage to dodge all the saws and successfully nail pogo your way from area to area, you'll reach... Okay, so this is like a huge spoiler I'm about to divulge here, so if you haven't played through this yet, go do it now. Okay, bye. From area to area, then you'll reach... Okay, look, dude, I'm 1000% serious right now. If you haven't beaten this part of the game yet, click off now, or I will deadass ruin the game for you right here without a second thought. Are you gone? You're gone. Okay. Awesome. Cool. All right. You'll reach this cutscene right here. what seems to be our old friend the Pale King and the Hollow Knight, the original perfect vessel the king deemed fit to protect Hallownest. Now, there are 100 theories swarming through my head right now, as I'm sure you're doing the same. Truth is, no one knows what the hell this cutscene is really about. I've seen Redditors and wiki page contributors tossing around the idea that maybe the Hollow Knight did in fact have a little bit of an emotional side to him, which I thought was odd because a couple videos ago that was something the Pale King wasn't looking for in a vessel. I've also heard this is just the Pale King allowing the Hollow Knight to gaze into what was then Hallownest, telling him that he will be responsible for protecting it. There's also new dialogue you can explore with NPCs. The White Lady in the Queen's Gardens actually says something about the Grimchild if you have it equipped, even going as far as saying you and the Grimchild bear some sort of resemblance. The Midwife also gives you additional dialogue while wearing the Weaver Song charm, but the dialogue doesn't appear to be relevant to any sort of lore. But who knows, they may be saving it for something else. Anyways, that just about wraps it up for this guide. I don't think I've missed anything huge, but if I have, tell me what you'd like to see in advance. If you'd like to stay updated, ring that bell so you never miss another video. Once again, thanks for tuning into The Forge. Keep it real, guys. See you next time.